Hi everyone, I'm Bernardo Tirado and welcome to Career Insights, where we help career-driven professionals advance their career. I am super excited today. We have Lakshmi Natarajan, who is going to be here and is going to be talking to us about her career journey going from corporate employee and executive to entrepreneur, and also going to be focusing on is also going to be speaking about her business and a lot of the products that she uses, especially as it relates to travel and her kids. So let's bring on Lakshmi. Lakshmi, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm super happy to have you here. Can you hear me?
Hi, Bernardo. Thank you so much for having me on. There might be some delay. Unfortunately, I can't hear you.
Okay, well, let me see what's going on my end. Can you hear me now? No, you can't hear me. All right. Let me see. This is what happens when you go live.
This is going to be so much fun. We can't.
Yes, it is. Let me try to open this up and close this up again. And then. All right. Can you hear me now? You can't hear me now. All right. So I'm not really sure what's going on at this particular point in time. But why don't we do this? Let's see if you can.
Okay. Let's see. What can we do now?
Why don't you just talk to us about your journey until we sort out this whole audio thing?
All right. So thank you, everyone, for being here. This is Lakshmi Natarajan, founder of Excelador consulting company and Travel Plus Them, which we'll talk more about today. Just wanted to share a little bit about my journey and what brought me here. So I guess rewind many years. I came to the United States when I was 4 years old from India. And I grew up in New Jersey, currently reside in Miami. I started my professional journey in the corporate world. So I've worked for major corporations across marketing, sales leadership, management consulting, finance, strategy, and spent a lot of time with different clients, having an extensive consulting career. So I was able to work in various different industries and global positions and work with a lot of different people across the world. So that really helped shape my life in so many ways, so many different people you work with and the travels that you had. And from childhood and all these years, I always had this desire to really see the world, learn more about the world. And a lot of that, sometimes in certain audiences, I was the only Indian woman in that group. And so it just became something I naturally did, really intrigued in learning about others. So after 20 years in the corporate world and working for these amazing companies where I met so many people, I recognized that I still had all these passions in me. I am now a mom. I became a mom a few years ago. My older daughter is 5 and my younger daughter is 4. When I became a mom, I still traveled a lot, and a lot of that was work and also something that my husband and I love to do. And then I just recognized like there's just so much out there in the world, and I didn't want to wake up wondering what if. So after 20 years, I hit that point of I don't want to wake up 20 years from now wondering what if. And so I decided to embark on this journey of building new businesses. So I have 2 companies now. One of them is called Excelador. And it leverages all my strengths and my passions in working in the corporate world. And so I do consulting work, I do advisory board work, and it's been amazing just being able to build something on my own. And Travel Plus Them, that is my passion business in really helping other families experience the world and bring the world to their homes. And it's something that I've been lucky to do with my daughters, and I see the impact that it has and how they see other people, they see other cultures, they are so interested in learning about everyone. And I've received great feedback from many parents on the Travel Plus Them journey and learning from them, and it's just become a great learning experience for everyone involved. So that's really a little bit more about me. Again, I live in Miami, and we're here to talk about something very core and dear to my heart, and that is really also how Amazon has been a part of all these years of my journey, and I can't wait to share more.
I really appreciate that. Can you hear me now?
This is amazing. I unfortunately cannot hear Bernardo and
Oh,
what great
goodness.
things he has to say. So we're going to
All right.
navigate in the real world. This is what we do, and we have calls and we can't hear people. We are going to navigate and show how it's done.
So what I'm going to say is I'm hoping the audience members can also hear me. And if you can, do let me know. And actually, that's a question. For those that are watching, can you hear by any chance what I'm saying? If you can, just make a note or say yes or no, because I think sometimes it's an issue when it comes to going live. If not, then let me just try something else. Give me one more second.
All right.
I cannot. Okay. Okay.
So we're unfortunately not connected.
Yeah, you can hear me. Right.
Through audio. So why don't I just get started with some things if that works? I'm gonna look for a thumbs up. Oh, okay.
I just was gonna say,
so me a sign
tell
over
us
here.
More about Travel Plus them. So yeah, you can hear me. Okay, great.
So
I appreciate it.
Bernardo and I met at a time early in my career at American Express, and it's amazing that my journey of entrepreneurship has enabled me to reconnect with so many great colleagues and friends. And I actually consulted with Bernardo, asking him for advice on, the journey of entrepreneurship. And we talked, I remember about a year ago when Travel Plus Them was coming into this world. An interesting thing is Travel Plus Them came around a time right before the pandemic. And it really, the initial vision I had was really this, just everyone traveling the world. And clearly we hit a point in our life with how does everything happen at home? And I was able to really focus on the core of why do we travel? And that's really to learn about people, learn about history, learn about cultures. And we brought that concept into the home model. And so I'll tell you the first thing that was essential in our home, and we've had this for a few years, and now it's really coming to life in our home, is something near and dear that I love, is that it is do you guys remember this? This is from like back in the days. I had one of these in the 80s, but now they've become a lot cooler. This is by Educational Insights, and it's a talking globe. It talks to you. So amazing. It comes in many different like types of English, like Australian English, British English, American English, and it has many different exercises. So there's this here, and you just push on different exercises. And this is actually exactly what we leverage to start the kids on their journey. One of the items that we leverage, and it's on Amazon. It was actually bought for me by my sister-in-law. She knows how much my children love learning about the world. And it's been amazing. And the amazing thing about the globe is that no matter what globe you have, it's never ending learning experience, even for parents too. We constantly are trying to find countries. I also question myself, like my kids are asking me where certain countries are, and I have to go navigate the globe for that. So the globe has really been amazing, and globes and maps are both great. The reason I think globes are really great for that preschool age is because children really gravitate to three-dimensional items that they can touch and feel, and it's colorful. And that's what really started the home journey for my children, and learning about the world and all these different countries. And this particular globe by Educational Insights that's found on Amazon enables the kids, parents are going to love this because we all need some of this, enabling the children to navigate this on their own, because it actually tells you what to do, tells you different ideas you can have. It talks about find this particular animal in a country. So this is one of those products that a child can leverage on their own. And we started using this when my younger daughter was 3, and she was able to do things on her own, didn't need help. So it was really great that both of them together, both my children were navigating this on their own, and it never ends. Like no matter how much they leverage this globe, there's still more exercises and more to learn. So that's been just one amazing product, a great foundational product to really expose your children to the world from home.
So I'm hoping that you can hear me. And if you still can't hear me, I just sent you a message on the private chat. So that way I was going to say to you is, how has it been traveling with children? 'Cause I know you've been traveling with your kids during COVID. What have you been doing to kind of keep them safe? What have you been using? Tell us a little bit more about how you've managed to do that.
So really, great question. I receive it quite often. And I'll first say that when it comes to travel, it is a personal decision, a lifestyle choice, and everyone has to assess what they feel comfortable with. So it's one of those times in life because of the pandemic that everyone has their choices. So I will say that it is, these choices are customized to the family. What I've put out in there in my social media platform, my blogs, is how can you make those choices? Like, how do you know when is the right time? So just an assessment. And so for us, we kind of divide the assessment into two categories. One is the concept of traveling responsibly. So responsibly means, I'm going to actually be able to talk about some products during that time too. Responsibly is, there are a lot of rules and regulations happening. And depending on which state you live in the United States, there's different things too. You can move from county to county and it's different. So imagine that times over 200 countries in the world. A lot of countries are closed for foreign travel, specifically travel from the United States. But even though many countries are open, they're over 50, there are a lot of different rules. So the term responsible means learn about the rules. And it's not so simple as it once was. So there is a lot of pre-work to happen, going to obviously the CDC and travel government websites, but also going to the respective countries' tourism, travel ministry website, and whatever links that they have, because the rules are constantly changing and evolving. So our experience, we had late last year, we had gone to Costa Rica with a whole group of friends, and then we also went to Belize as well. So definitely shorter distances on a plane from Miami. And each one of them had different rules and they were changing real time. So as an example, one country needed us to buy travel insurance. Another country needed us to get tested in advance before arrival. Even my young children require different tests than adults. Just for their protection, the swabs are a different length. And then also there's curfew. So the curfew in the country was 8 p.m. Everything closes down, all restaurants, even the hotel food. So these are things you need to know in advance. And I will share one of the things related to travel is mask adherence. I'm very big on mask adherence, obviously locally where we live, but also when we're traveling, not only on the plane, but wherever we go when we're around a crowd of people. So my children, masks, parents, you can relate to this, even for adults, like, oh, sometimes these masks are not comfortable. But I, after some time, was able to locate some really good masks on Amazon. So I bought a lot of masks. I mean, this has been a year, so you try out different things over time. This one particular mask for kids, so it comes in like 30 different styles, and each package comes with about 4 or 5, 6 masks. So I'll just share with you, my daughters have different personalities. One of my daughters really loves superheroes. So I have a superhero mask. It's a whole collection of DC Comics. She also wants Marvel too. We'll wait on that. She already has 5 of these. These are washable. And what's great about it is when with kids and masks, you need this little area to tighten it, right? Because you can make it a little loose, a little tight, because some of the kids have different size faces. My other daughter loves her princess collection. So we have that as well. It's a separate package with all these Disney princesses. And they like a little bit of glitz and glam. So when we're going, when we're all dressed up and we often go over the weekend to our temple, they like to wear these masks as well. And I recommend you can wash these. I mean, it's amazing. Doesn't have the second like filler layer. Sometimes those masks have it, but at the end of the day, it just covers so well. And also what's amazing about this is when we're on planes, they eat and drink with the mask on. So their water bottles have straws, so they just kind of slip it in. And look, it even fits me because I make it bigger. And then they eat, they pull out the mask, put food, and then put it back on and chew. And it's very, very comfortable. So fully covered, safe, comfortable, a lot of different varieties as well. So it matches with different things. And, clearly if you're not able to wash these every day, you're breathing on them, talking in them, maybe you have to, doesn't always smell good. So that's why we have a lot of these. And the other thing about traveling for adults. So I do myself have some comfortable masks as well, but on a plane, and just to be extra safe and cautious, people are, I know vaccinations are growing and people are getting them, which is great. Very, those who choose to, those who have access to do that. But a lot of people are not vaccinated, and you don't know. You just assume. You just have to protect yourself and always assume that anyone around you, unfortunately, could be ill. So one of the things that I wear on the plane are these N95, KN95 masks. These were really hard to get a year ago, of course, when the pandemic first started. And I'm so glad that they're so accessible now, a year later. I still wear these. And the KN95 mask can be kind of hard to breathe in sometimes. It's very tight. I'm going to show you guys now. There you go. See? And wearing this consistently for many hours, from the car to the waiting in the airport to the plane, getting off the plane, waiting it through the respective countries. But I mean, you're talking many hours of consistently wearing a mask. So what I do is I put on a very comfortable cotton mask underneath when I'm flying, and then I put on the N95 above that. So it makes it very, very comfortable. So these are the products that I definitely recommend when you are at home and for travel. Related to other travel products, there's a plethora of things. The other thing that I wanted to call out is this particular backpack. It is it's called a diaper bag, but it is so beyond a diaper bag. I know. So my kids are no longer in diaper phase. They're 4 and 5. But I had these, I used to always buy, let me get another bag, or this bag's not comfortable. I can't carry my laptop here, the bag here. It was always, I was lugging stuff around. And I'm very big on is comfort and practicality, and can it fit a lot of stuff and kind of look nice too, right? You want a little bit nice look. So that diaper bag that I've highlighted is very affordable. Not only is it affordable, yes, it looks like a little kitty bag for a little infant whose diapers and has bottles, but I will tell you, I still use it today because I can hold 2 iPads in there for when we're on the plane. I can hold my laptop if I need to, and I can hold other stuff. I always have wipes with me. I have antibacterials with me. I always have that extra change of clothes just in case, I don't know, we get rained on somewhere. I carry water, I carry food. So that backpack is comfortable, it's very affordable, and it has lasted me quite some time. It's been around the world with me, but those are the things that I look for. So whenever you see the term diaper bag, when you're in your search of a product, please take a deeper look at it. Do not always assume it's just for that phase of children. These bags can really last a lot longer and serve a lot of different purposes. So that's been another really important travel bag that I use, kind of also sometimes even locally as well.
So if you're joining me right now, can you hear me now, Lakshmi, by any chance? No, you can't. So if you're just joining me, we're having a bit of a technical difficulty between Lakshmi and myself. So we're working through those details behind the scenes. But if you're just joining us on Amazon Live, feel free to ask any questions that you have in regards to the products or any of the things that we're talking about with Lakshmi. If you're joining us either on YouTube, Twitter, or Facebook, feel free to come over to Amazon Live. I'm super excited to have Lakshmi here. She was originally talking to us about her career journey as to being a corporate executive and then launching her business. I'm gonna ask her a little bit more about that in a minute, but please keep in mind for the audience members, for those that are watching live, you can hear her, you can hear me, but for some reason she's not able to hear me. So I'm gonna be sending some messages to her back and forth through chat because I know she can see the chat itself. And so that's why I'm kind of waving like this a little bit. So it's the beauty of technology, bear with us, but please let us know if you have any specific questions. And if you like this type of content, feel free to follow at any moment, either to this Amazon channel or to any of the channels that are listed below. So I'm gonna let her know that I'd like to know a little bit more about her business. I know she's been talking about some of the products that she's specifically using, and she's been a great inspiration in being able to not only be very cautious in the travel aspect during this pandemic, but using really top quality products that help her and her children and her family stay safe. So I'm going to let her know that I'd like to know a little bit more about her business.
So this is amazing that Bernardo and I think I'm the only one, we're going to be transparent that I can't hear him.
You can't hear me yet.
Amazing. This is technology at its finest. It reminds me like my children's virtual schooling. Like what? I can't hear you. So more
it's what happens
about
when we go live.
both my businesses. So wanted to talk a little bit about just transitioning from the corporate world into entrepreneurship. I always heard this term, it's not for everyone. And I was really inspired by one of the last corporate positions that I had by being surrounded by entrepreneurs. I just was like, wow, what an amazing talent that they have, is that they're building something on their own and they're their own boss to some extent. And I was just really inspired. And I've been, I guess I was dreaming about it for years and really being able to leverage all my experiences and building things from the ground up. It was a big transition because I had a team of hundreds of people and it was just consistent. Like you had your schedule every day. So building two businesses is very different. So my consulting business, I still am passionate, and that I wanted to always keep that with me because I'm still very passionate about the world of working with corporations or, smaller businesses, really working with clients in helping them uncover opportunities, helping them, lead high-performing teams, helping them deliver a world-class customer experience, and helping them with diversity and inclusion initiatives, and ultimately, optimizing their growth. So I kept that in both a client fashion and also in an advisory fashion. Travel Plus Them is honestly, it was just something that I did at home, and I used to post on all of our travels when I was working full time. I used to post things on whether it was Facebook or Instagram, and it wasn't even extensively long posts. It would just be like a picture and one piece of advice. I used to receive such great feedback, and it was inspiring. I'm like, well, thank you. I guess that helped. And people would just comment like, how did you do this with your children? How did you get on the plane with like 2 toddlers, 2 diaper changing children? How did you take them to India, 2 kids under the age of 2? That's a long, hard trip. And I just would share feedback offline or in social media, or, I used to receive a lot of DMs from people I knew and people I really didn't know that well. So I just felt like there's people who really seek this information, just like I seek so much information from the world out there. People seek information from me too. It was very empowering and inspiring. So that's where Travel Plus Them came from. And since we talked a little bit about traveling during the pandemic and COVID and some of the products we use, I also wanted to transition to how to bring the world to your home, how to raise global citizens from home. So we talked about my wonderful globe, a couple of other things that we did when my children were even younger. So the globe, it's more probably like 2.5, 3 to introduce that. But I also wanted to introduce you to these maps. So one is flags of the world and the other one is a world map. So what are these maps? So when my children, they were big enough to get out of their little high chair and they would sit on the table on a booster seat. This was like around the age of 1. So they're still young. They made a mess. I let them eat on their own. They'd make a mess. So I just buy some maps. So they have some maps, like other maps, like shapes and animal stuff. They love animals. I'm like, I'm just going to buy some globe mats and world mats. And I didn't think much of it. It wasn't this master plan to raising global citizens, right? I mean, you just kind of do things that you like and do. And we bought these mats and it's been amazing. These have lasted us years. I mean, it's easy to clean, just wipe it down or wash it. And they love it. And how we started with just talking about different colors that they see. Where do you see red? And it evolved from there. But these are really great mats. They're on Amazon. There's a whole bunch of them, United States, animals around the world. You can find a lot of them. But they're a very, very useful introductory into bringing the world to your home.
I love it. I love the fact that you
hear you.
You can hear me. All right, finally. I don't know what's going on, but we made it happen. But I love it. I love the fact that you've spent a lot of time just kind of using all these tools that we've grown up with in just getting, creating global citizens of the future and of the world, and really taking the time to find products that will not only help them, but also create a business around it. Like, that's amazing. Like, being able to kind of marry a lot of the passions, which is how do you bring in your family into the business, kind of like a family business, and really be able to help a lot of the challenges that parents have today. You know, they're going to be traveling with kids. Now, what do they need to do? Some people haven't had the ability to travel. So now that you can hear me and we don't have to chat to the back channels here, and thank you again for everyone with their patience as we've been trying to sort this out. Tell us a little bit more about what people, I know you mentioned regulations, you know, there are certain things that people need to do, but I'm sure you were very apprehensive at first. What advice do you give to parents who are looking to start traveling? I know people are getting vaccinated, but what is like one of the first or one or two things that you should, people should be doing with children if they're going to be traveling soon?
So definitely, we talked about being responsible and learning a lot of different rules and going to different websites. So the country list changes frequently. Please check the CDC for that. 1 minute, like, as an example, you could have traveled 1 month ago to French Polynesia, and now it's closed for tourism. So information like that constantly changes. So responsibly is, look, there's always a risk. We felt the risk too. We were scared. We weren't vaccinated, and it was something that we love to do. And we just said, we're going to be safe and smart. And we had everything you can imagine to protect ourselves. I had gloves on the plane. I had cleaned the seats with wipes. I mentioned the masks, checking all these rules. I think you have to look at the country list first. And a lot of countries have quarantine rules. So when you arrive, you have to stay in a place and in your hotel. You can't move around necessarily. If you're only going for 5 days, that may not work for you. There are a good amount of countries within the Caribbean and Mexico that they're a little bit more open. What I would say is, just because a country doesn't have what you would consider strict rules compared to another, doesn't mean it's not safe. Do not assume less rules means less safe. That's not true. It is, every country has made the rules of what they feel is safe for their people and their tourists. So you can't look at less rules means less safe. That's not what it equates to. Every country's just doing what they feel is right. Just like we in the United States have done what we felt is right as well. There's different views on that. So that's, I would say, is, do what you feel is right and what you're willing to deal with. Do you want an 8 p.m. curfew where everything's closed by 8 p.m. and you're in your room? Things like that. The other area is intentional. And I mean, when I say intentional, this is where you weigh your risk. Yes, there's always a fear factor in the pandemic. However, it's your level of comfort. Just like there's a risk in my kids going to soccer practice, right? I mean, there's a risk there. So when I say intention, why are you going? Is it an event that one of your friends are having? Are you going to visit family? Do you really need a mental health break? Do you really just want to get away, right?
Yeah, I was going to say, and I also think that the other thing to consider is not only are you traveling, but where are you going to eat? Like, what's the food that you're going to consume? Where are you going to consume it? So there are a whole host of other factors that one needs to kind of think about. And one thing I was going to say, and I kind of highlighted it in the carousel that I loved, was that mask that I couldn't imagine. I didn't know they had masks with little things that you could put straws in. I would love to be able to do that myself. And so when it comes to a question that someone from the audience has just asked, which is not necessarily focusing on the travel piece, but let's just kind of tie it into. So one was asking, what advice do you give to someone who's looking to start out their business? Which is a very good question to ask. You went from being a corporate executive, launching 2 businesses. We're specifically talking about Travel Plus Them. What advice do you give to someone who is really interested in going into that entrepreneurship role?
I would say the most important thing is believing in yourself. In the corporate world, we have, I'll use terms, milestones, key performance indicators, annual performance reviews. We receive awards, recognized. When you're on your own, if you don't believe in yourself and believe that you could do this, I mean, wholeheartedly, and I'm still insecure about some things, that's human nature, but if you don't believe in yourself, who's going to believe in you? Who is going to want to learn from you, read your blogs or buy your consulting services and grow from there? So you have to believe in yourself, and it's a marathon. It is not a sprint race. Now, for some people, it could be, and kudos to you. A lot of people build their business while they're working a corporate career, raising a family. I mean, amazing, and I applaud people who do that. It's amazing. I didn't do that. I just left and was like, what am I going to do? And, you know, I just hit a point where I needed that mental break as well. But I would say you have, first and foremost, believe in yourself. And second, like, if you believe in yourself, tell the world what you're doing. Get out there, whether it's contacting old, you know, connections and networks that you had, you know, letting people know, because if people don't know what is it that you're doing, how are they ever going to find you? How would they know? So you have to really engage with your network, whether or not you think they could be clients or consumers, doesn't matter. Let people know what you're doing. So those are definitely, you know, two pieces of advice I would say in the transition, but it just, something will feel right. I think you just feel it, even though you have apprehensions, even though you have insecurities, we are all in that together. We all have them. You still feel that it's right. It just becomes like something, you know. And I would say the third thing is, would you regret if you didn't do it? So believe in yourself, like, let the world know what you're doing so they can find you. And then would you regret if you didn't do it? Because that is something that you can make a decision on today. 10 years from now, these 10 years have gone. So would you regret if you didn't do it?
Yeah, you bring up an excellent point. A lot of it is a mental shift. It is self-belief. And I think that's one of the struggles that people sometimes make when they are making that transition from being an employee to an employer or an entrepreneur, is not only just believing in themselves, but also the fear of finding clients and finding customers, and really coming up with ideas around how to go about identifying what solution is it that you're bringing to solve a pain point that someone specifically has. Right. So I'm glad that an audience member asked the question. We also are getting some spam, so I don't know if you won't be able to see it, but I don't know why you have sometimes trolls pop up asking or saying silly stuff. So I reported them already. So okay. I don't understand why that happens, but it is nonetheless there. But what I was going to go back to, so in regards to, and again, those that are watching, feel free to ask any other questions that are relevant to the conversation, whether it's going from being a corporate executive to entrepreneur or being able to travel. I think that's really important because most of us are starting to think about, where do we go next? You know, I know I'm like crazy to go somewhere that I can relax and enjoy the weather and so forth. So when it comes to your business is focusing not only with helping parents how to travel with children, but it's also teaching them locally. You know, if you can't make that transition to travel for one reason or another, whether it's financial constraints or still concerns about traveling, what specific tools, I know we have a whole bunch of ones here. Which are your favorite ones that you've used to kind of help children just become more aware of the world?
Yes, so I definitely, like I mentioned, the globe, but I'm actually going to talk about something that parents are probably seeing a lot in their mom groups is diversify your bookshelf. So books. So regardless of everything, and maybe not the globe or the mats or any other, you know, specific in that concept of world stuff, books. Books are a great way for children to learn about the world. And we all read to our kids, or our kids read on our own. So one of the things that I've been doing, we had a lot of books from, you know, Animals of Australia, and Let Me Teach You About Ramadan, and, you know, books. Clifford is learning about Rosh Hashanah. It's a children's book, the Clifford, the Red Dog. So we started to get all these books. My children liked it. So I highly encourage you really focus on books that explain different things, whether it's a different country, whether it's a different, you know, religious holiday, whether it's children who look different. So that's the big thing. And I wanted to just talk about a couple of books that we recently, one of them, you know, two of them actually recently purchased, or new purchases. And this one for Black History Month, I really love this book. It's called Little Leaders. It's Bold Woman in Black History. There's a man's version as well. It's by Vashti Harrison. And it's also, there's a global one as well. And I have to buy that one. It's in my cart. So I'm going to buy that as well. It's for a little older kids that can probably like second or third grade versus like preschool, kindergarten. But my children love it. And it was so important for them to recognize. They're like, there's so many women that have done so much, and so many Black women that have done so much. And they wanted to know if there's an Indian woman version or a global woman version, right? So right then and there, it just triggered, sprinkle of knowledge opens up a world of curiosity. The other one, and it's special. It's March. It's in India. It's Holi, the festival of colors. So that particular author, Ajanta Chakravarti, she has a lot of books about different Indian festivals and celebrations, and she does a really great job at explaining, how to kind of bringing the reader into India and different ways that holidays are celebrated. And why I think, in general, books are important, and you'll see some of these books here, is it's important for children when you think of the world. People look different around the world. People look different sometimes in our hometown, sometimes they don't. But It is a great way to expose your children to the world by just buying books that have different main characters that look different than your child. And when you think of inclusivity, there's so many different books that exist out there with that. But that is just a huge start. It's a great way when you're raising global citizens. Yes, there's a big world out there. Yes, there's so much to learn about so many countries, but it's also learning about that people look different than you. They have different faiths, different beliefs, they eat different foods. How can you bring some of that in a book to your home? So I would just recommend, continue diversifying your bookshelf. There's so much opportunity there, and your kids will just have such a great time with that.
Yeah, I love it. I have to say, I know that when we were preparing for this interview, we were going to kind of look at all the things that not only do you recommend through Travel Plus Them, but also focusing on the different platforms that you have. And we didn't even talk about the fact that like the top 20 Instagram accounts to follow. I forgot what article that I read with Gary V and all that stuff. I was like, what is going on here? I love it. I love it. It's just a celebration of what you're looking to do. And I love the fact that you've included some books. So if you're, again, watching or you're on Amazon Live, feel free to go through the carousel. I've added a whole bunch of books there, including the ones that Lakshmi was specifically talking about, which I do think is important, because I think the more we add a level of inclusivity or just differences as to what exists outside the world, the more we become more normalizing just differences in general. And in fact, actually, I have a question that also has come from one of the audience members, which was, how do you express to your children the importance of being a leader, especially in today's day and age? It is important to give them visibility to that, especially women. So what are your thoughts on that?
That's a great question. I think we have to talk to them about what it means to be a leader. So one of the things in parenting, when your children ask a question, it might be a tough one to answer, but figure out a way to answer it. Don't ignore it. So when they ask questions that pose like, oh, you're too young to know what that means. No, they're never too young. Just figure out a way to connect it. So we're talking about leadership specifically. And I'm going to speak to this as an immigrant, a person of color, because that's who my children are. They're the only ones like them in some of their surroundings. There's different types of people, but sometimes if they're the only Indian person, they ask about that. Like, oh, no one else celebrates Holi like we do. I'm like, well, there's millions of people that do, right? We're just not these friends, but that's okay, because they celebrate these other things, and we can embrace that. They can embrace this. So I think I just always address for them and I start with, be confident of who you are. Love yourself. Like, even if you're different, that's great. You can share and you can learn. So I think the one thing I would say to parents, leadership comes from people embracing who they are. We all have insecurities. Children have insecurities too. And let them be confident and build that in who they are. So when someone says their name wrong, my younger daughter, people are saying her name wrong often. And she gets upset. I'm like, well, then tell them how to pronounce your name properly, right? It's as simple as just teaching them to speak up, and in a very polite, respectful way. Of course, they don't have to yell or anything, but for leadership, it starts within, and it starts by loving yourself, loving who you are, what you bring to the table, no matter where you are. And you don't ever have to change that. So I tell all parents to do that. And it starts at a very young age. I know maybe in our generation, we kind of went with the flow more and didn't think about these things. But I think in this generation of children, they're a lot smarter than we were in many ways. They're exposed to a lot more things. They're going to learn at a much faster pace just because of technological advancements. And I think they're just being built differently. So I highly encourage parents, ensure to embrace and ensure your children embrace who they are, and in turn, being able to embrace others.
Yeah, I love that. And I'd say for those that are watching, so my background is as an industrial psychologist, which means I study human behavior in the workplace. And if there's ever a book that I highly recommend that you pick up, it's called The Birth Order Book by Kevin Lemon. I don't get any royalties or anything of that sort, but I love that book because it is a doctor or sociologist that basically started to do studies on leadership, the components of the differences between firstborn, secondborn, or firstborn, lastborn, firstborn, middleborn, mixed. When I say mixed families, I was talking about two jointed families. So two different children from two different families being connected, and it's a fascinating book because when you're talking about leadership, there are certain things that parenting inherently does, especially if you have two children, where the oldest or the eldest is being asked to look out for the youngest. So unconsciously, we're putting them in this leadership position, whether they like it or not, because they just happen to be the oldest.
Right.
And so there are studies around how to go about making sure that leadership is being taught at both levels, so that it's not just one having the responsibility of being able to be a leader. So I love that. So hopefully for the audience member, your question was answered through this conversation. So
Bernardo, to your point on that, my children are only less than even a year and a half apart. So there unintentionally becomes a lot of comparisons. And they're different. They have a lot of similarities, but they're also very different. So I have recognized exactly that and ensured that I don't just say, hey, do what the older one does, do it like that. The younger one has her strengths and she does things, I mean, I don't want to say better than the older one, but she's just more independent in some ways. So I'm like, look, she takes her own clothes for schools tomorrow and gets it ready, the night before. The older one wouldn't do that. So they absolutely, just like, I look at it like this, we all learn from each other. Right. In the same way, our children, no matter what age, they can all learn from each other as well. So I recognize that it was leaning towards the older one, and now I see that I had to correct myself and also ensure that my younger child gets her kudos too and is recognized.
Yeah, I love that. And you're right. There are going to be differences that exist. And it is a matter of, as a parent, being mindful of unconscious conditioning that we're creating in our own children. Because it's even if you have the children 5 years apart, the first one, what typically happens, you're super careful, they get a bump in the head, and it's like, oh my God, they gotta go to the hospital. Meanwhile, the second one is like, okay, that hasn't died, so we're fine. So there is a level of, and it's also because you're learning as you grow, right? And there's no right or wrong, and I'm not trying to sound judgmental, I'm just saying that there are just differences as to how things evolve. And as a result of that, you wind up conditioning the children to be a certain way, which inherently is how they become the fabric of who they are as they get older. So I love that question that one of our audience's members raised. I also want to be very respectful of your time. Is there anything else that you wanted to cover during our time? And apologies for whatever happened in the beginning of our live stream, but that's what happens when you're live. These things are meant to happen for one reason or another. But the good thing is we were able to connect and have
I think that the A's, the adaptability and the agility in real time are just, I think it's become something new that we all are growing into. And you think of our children and their resiliency. I've learned so much from them and their resiliency during this time of the pandemic, more than I had at their age. So something that we're learning from our children. And I'm just really honored to have this conversation with you and share some great tips on traveling responsibly and with intention during COVID, some of the products that we use, also raising global citizens from home and some things that we've really benefited from Amazon. And finally, I just wanted to say thank you to so many of my followers. Some of them may be on the call with us, but thank you for being part of our journey. I try to make sure to bring the best valuable content to you. We'll continue to welcome your feedback. And we have a major launch happening this month on Travel Plus Them on our website. It is going to be around the world in 60 days, really taking children. It's a video and 2 workbooks and taking children around the world. And it's actually being taught by my daughter.
Oh, wow, nice. I love it.
Yeah, she was very passionate about it. And she talks so much about some of her travels and some of the stuff she reads about. Because again, she's learning so much about these places she's visited. She's relearning things from home. And so she really wanted to put this information out there, and she changed her wardrobe for each of the countries. She had a lot of fun with it. And one of the reason she wanted to take this initiative is she likes learning from other children. I know parents, if you see that trend with your children, I mean, they already learn from teachers and coaches and educators and us, we're all adults. They really gravitate to like learning from other children. And so that's why she always seeks information on YouTube, learning from other children. She wanted to build something out there as well that would be available, child teaching a child about the world.
I'm super excited, and do let me know when that does come out. I'd love to be able to help support you, amplify that message through my platforms where I can specifically. I've always been a very big supporter of you since I've known you when you were single. Now you're married with children. I'm like, how is this even possible? When did this happen? Not that I'm complaining or anything like that. It's just how things evolve, you know, just how friendships and relationships evolve. So I am super, super excited for you. Thank you so much for spending this time with us. And for those that have been watching, thank you so much for your time. Again, take a look at all the products that Lakshmi has recommended, whether you're looking to start increasing your library in regards to diversity and inclusion, or any sort of products in regards to creating, or sorry, helping raise awareness as it relates to global citizenship. And if you are able to make that transition into travel, there are a lot of different, I love the little nappy that you talked about, the backpack that's meant for really for diapers, but you're innovative and being able to use it for other things. So feel free to take a look at that. The last thing I was going to say is, if you're not following Lakshmi and her Travel Plus Them, please do so at Travel Plus Them on Instagram, and then you can also go to her website at travelplusthem.com. And for those of you that are seeing me for the first time, I am Bernardo Tirado. I specifically host various different guests on Amazon Live or on YouTube. So feel free to check it out. I specifically focus on career development, interviews with experts like Lakshmi, as well as senior executives. So please have a look. And if there's ever any feedback or any topics that you'd like to see covered, feel free to reach out to me directly at Professor Tirado on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. Now I'm also on Clubhouse. So all over the place, but I like technology, and I like to be able to help where I can and provide any guidance and assistance where necessary. So before we go, Lakshmi, any parting words for the folks that are watching, or if there are any questions, by the way, feel free to ask them now. And if you have a question after the fact, just feel free to reach out to us. You're more than welcome to. But any parting words before we close out this evening's session?
No, thank you, Bernardo. You've been an inspiration. All these years I've known you. It's been, I think, 2 decades. Wow, time has
Don't age us. Come on, Lakshmi, don't do that.
Yes, I know. I'm dating ourselves here. It's been 2 decades, and it's been an inspiration to see how you two have, grown professionally and personally, and really followed your passions and dreams. And so the advice I just have for anybody else, of course, please feel free if there's any specific questions on anything we talked about today. Sometimes I think we just need to take a moment and breathe and be proud of what we have achieved in life, whatever that means to us. I think we're just constantly on this hamster wheel and churning. And I definitely have been there for so many years. And now, I've started I sometimes can get on the wheel again. It's our natural habit, but I just take the time to be present. And so that is what I leave everyone with. You're always on the wheel. It's always thinking about what I have to do next, But just take time to be present in whatever you're in, it can go such a long way, because 100% of you doing less things is better than a fraction of you doing so many things. So just be present, be proud of yourself, and continue to live your best life.
Well, thank you for those parting words. I could not have said it any better. So thank you so much. Thank you again, everyone, for again, spending your time. We really appreciate it. Have a great evening, afternoon, or morning, or yeah, wherever you are. So feel free to reach out to us whenever. We really appreciate it. Take care. Have a great day.
Thank you, Bernardo. Thank you, everyone.